And we're live, and we have Heller Barnes today. And with just an apology up front, I'm going to apologize for Steve before I do this. Steve sent me a message this morning. He is coughing so much. He is, and quote, I'm coughing so much, I'm practically throwing up. And he is sick today, and we feel terrible for him. And it's the dilemma. But anyway, send him a message that says, sorry you're feeling so bad. And he legit, I mean, he just is, but anyway, so he will be on. Okay. We've already talked about doing it again. And so we're rescheduling and working that out. But Steve is sick today. And when you do something live, you sometimes go with that. So, Johnny, how you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. As a matter of fact, everybody pay this cough thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had it. I'll tell you. I mean, I want to tell you. Remind me to talk to you about. I just did a whole book with a cold, which I'm still getting over. And I want to talk about my process for doing that 'cause I think it might be helpful. But Joanna's really sick right now. The lovely Joanna. She's got that same. It's a hacking cough.
Yeah, he just says
Um,
he literally he said, I'm practically throwing up just
yeah,
from coughing.
yeah.
And
It's it's just going around. It's bad, and then you add in here in New York, for goodness sakes, we had since January, we had, we had snow, frigid temperatures, then we just had a blizzard. This is crazy talk.
and you have another one coming, don't you? I mean,
Another blizzard?
projected. I don't know if
Do
it's
I?
but some bad weather coming. I don't know
I
what.
you know, I've ceased to look. I mean,
Okay.
I look every day,
Well,
and I
look
figure
out
I
your window here over the next day or two, okay?
when when you make your living in this little space, you don't wanna give a rat's ass what's going on out there. It's,
Well, how do you all right, well, let's say, you normally, if you get sick, you can take off 2 weeks and nobody cares, is that right?
depending on what projects one has. You can't I mean, yeah, I mean, if you have I know you're teasing to get this is the Don Barnes, Platonic method here, or Socratic method of Don Barnes. W if you have projects that are due and your sickness, let's say you lose your head in a skiing accident, that's gonna affect your schedule.
Okay.
Um, so you're gonna wanna let somebody know about you're gonna have to do it like this, but you're gonna let someone know, yeah, if something happens that changes your schedule, the turn-in date, the due date, if you're working with a publisher who likes, daily, all the waveforms set in daily, that kinda thing, you have to let them know what's up.
Right.
Being sick doesn't mean you've lost the job. Doesn't mean you can't finish the job. Most actors aren't aware that most publishers build in a few days room there to help because this sort of thing happens, especially in this season. This is the cold and flu season,
Right.
so it's built in there. It's difficult when the difficulty comes in. I was booked at Macmillan to do a book called Vengeance by Tom Clavin. It's the Custer's Last Stand story. It's really the story about the plight and fight of the American indigenous peoples, the Indians, and how we, the actual immigrants, just took their land and forced them further and further out. And so Custer's Last Stand was really the last stand of Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse and all the rest. And it's a great Tom Clavin is a great writer. This book comes out when it comes out, so it's one of those immediate releases coming up. And I was booked to do it at Macmillan Studio, not my own, for this last week. They were very busy. I mean, they have 4 studios, I wanna say, and they're all booked. So, that meant there's a lot of stuff going on. So, in a cold can hit you just overnight, and I'd rather not if I can work through it, I'd rather work through it without putting anyone in danger of anything. So, this had hit me a few days before, so I wasn't in the "I'm gonna give it to you" phase. But you want to and also whenever you have the opportunity to go to a studio, you wanna go to the studio because that's where the work happens, that's where you can make relationships, etcetera, etcetera. So we go to the studio, and I'm feeling you can hear it in my voice, it's still a little, nasally, but your voice sounds different.
But did they
Your voice
notice?
well, see, I d not the I the Steve, who I know probably noticed, but I told him I was a little under the weather, and I said, "I can do this." The, engineers I work with didn't really know what I sounded like anyway, so they think that's my sound. Here's the trick from the acting standpoint, or at least from you, the actor, need to know if the sounds you're making at this stage of your cold or flu are reproducible for you later, because If I'm sounding like this, and later on sound like this, that's gonna be a problem. You can't come back and do retakes. It's like suddenly Dudley Do-Right popped in to fix Porky Pig's work. Um, Look at this frame of references, 1922. So anyway, so what I do and what I recommend you do if you can, and only you know if you can. When I have a cold, I make my voice much more gentle, much softer. I raise it to a higher octave like it is right here. This tends to flow over whatever, nasal issues are happening, whatever throat issues are happening. It's a soft, easy sound, not a whisper, but it's right here. So from the audiobook perspective, the volume I'm at right now is perfect, and I can maintain this. And even though I have a cold, I can still sound like this. And when my voice is back full and I don't have a cold, I can still recreate this sound. So it's consistent. As long as this sound allows me to work as an actor within the author's truth, within the frame of reference of the book, to tell this story, which is, Custer's Last Stand. It's moving and sad and but also there's battles and things. So you need to move around. If within this place, if this becomes your workspace, you have to start working within there without going too far in any direction. That way you can pretty much keep your stuff together and keep your job.
So
Again, if you're in a situation where you're, bubonic plague, if you're given diseases to people, don't show up. But if you're okay and just wanna lose the job, you can make an adjustment that'll work,
so
and let us
basically,
see
you
how it works.
create a character that you can reproduce when you are, or I don't know, character voice. That's probably not the right way to put it, but essentially, you are doing a voice that you could do with a cold, without a cold, and then that way, if you need pickups a month from now, you
Yeah.
have something that you are comfortable with reproducing, and you mentally probably consider that almost a different, just a different character point of
Well,
view.
you think it
How
might
do
be
you think
different
about it?
character. The danger comes in your phrase, "Do a voice." It
Okay,
has to be your honest voice, just in a different place. Even like right now, because 'cause I'm still fighting a cold, so right now, my voice, you can just bring it up to a different register, a different pitch. The syntax remains Johnny's, but the sound is a little lighter, perhaps. And also, you'll find when you have a cold, some bass notes come in that aren't normally in there.
right.
Be aware, just be aware. So because I promise you, you can recreate all of it because it's all you. Um, and just be aware what you're sounding like. You can even do a couple lines of dialogue from a book you did when you didn't have a cold and listen to what it sounds like. See what the differences are. Be aware of them, and that way you probably now, will this work for everybody? I honestly don't know. It's worked for me in my 30 some odd year career. Um, I've found a way because in all those since 1990, and since hell, I started in this in 1980s. Um, I've had colds,
Yeah, yeah,
and some have stopped me from working, and I don't like that. If I'm able to do the job, I mean, if you're just knocked out,
right,
like my lovely wife Joanna is just, she's got a fever, and I did not have a fever, didn't have a temperature. I don't know if I would have gone in if I have, 102 or so, I wouldn't have gone in. So my temperature was normal. It's just the remnants of this cold, with this. So but you can't do a book. Chapter one, you can't do it.
right.
Marlon Brando's doing the book or something.
And do you end up changing anything about your mic position and how close you are, how far away you
Um,
are, any of that
I
type?
th I do not, and I probably wouldn't because I don't understand tech. Um, but it's the engine. I'm at their studio, so they set it. They hear me, and they set it for what sounds right, and that's where I am. It never moves for the 3, 4 days you're in the studio.
Right.
Like, right now, I mean, if I was doing a book right now with this setup, and this may be my last, Ask Us Anything in our booth, in this booth.
Right.
We'll talk about that too, but anyway, I think that as long as you're aware that you're a little softer, and you need to be a little softer, not whisper. Whispering hurts the instrument, don't whisper, but bring it softer to a more, um, one-on-one in a crowded space kinda situation. So that's where your mic is. So here's Don right here, he's there. Um, and I think, at least for me, and let's find out what the reaction is to the book when it comes out. But I think I expect it to be a positive response. It's still me, it's still the way I work. It's just me with a bit of a lighter sound, which works for the material.
So sometimes if you're so Chris had an interesting question here. So sometimes if you're under the weather, will you do other things so that hey, right today I can't use my voice, so I'm going to uh, reach out to people. I'm
Oh,
going
it's a
to
great question. I gotta say something. Chris Walsh has been a regular, participant in these, and I really appreciate your presence, your consistent viewership, and your questions. It really
thoughtful questions.
yeah, very yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I think it's great. So bugger off, Chris, I'm not answering that one. No, so here okay, I think that's a great question. If you're not able to use your voice, it could be that you're just too sick, in which case, my advice is watch Animal Crackers, Lord of the Rings, and all your other favorite movies, and just lie in bed, and just don't do anything. Have tea, um, have soup. However, if you're just vocally unable to produce, but you feel okay, that's a wonderful time to look over your demos, to check on, other actors, who they're working for, to go to book list and other places, see what books are coming out. What would you like to do? It's a great time if you have the energy and stamina to reach out. Now, if you're not all together, I don't know if I'd send a letter to, Don Barnes Publishing, say, "I'm really fucked up today, Barnes." You don't wanna do that. You wanna if you can reach out, it's a wonderful time to get some of the business of your business done. If you're up for it, you can work on your taxes but yeah, there's a lot of things. I think you can advance your business, not even you don't necessarily have to change your demos, but what if you just listen to them again? When's the last time you heard your most recent demos? Listen to it, go, "Oh my goodness," you'll say, "Wow, that's not a very good I'm better than that." And if that's what you said, then maybe do a new demo when you don't do it right then, make a note, that's something you wanna do. Even that is taking care of business. It's the things because we can all if Don gets hired to do job, I get hired to do job, doing the job is the business, that's what we want. But all the little things that make people want to hire us. And I'll also tell you something, once you start getting known as being able to do projects in given time and things, you will get people will reach out to you who I guarantee haven't heard you, um, or probably haven't heard you, but they've heard of you, or their associates and colleagues have told them that you'd be good at this or something. I'm not certain that all the publishers that I work for, the ones I work for consistently have heard me enough to know I can do a thing, but I bet they've never gone to my website and listened to a demo.
Right.
And say,
Right.
"Let's get Johnny Heller. What's he sound like?" "I don't know, he's fine. Let's get him." "Okay." I think that happens.
Yeah.
Um, but until you get to the point we've done 1,200 books or more, then you've gotta have demos that show them who you are. And when you're not feeling well, there's a good chance that listen, and who are you? What are you? What are you selling? What's when you listen to what's out there, or when you look at your webpage, what are you thinking? What's it? Here's Don. He's got a bright smile. He's articulate. He's really I don't he's a lovely man. He really is.
Your
And I
acting
think
is
if you
doing
go
really well too,
yeah,
by the way.
thanks. I think if you go to his site, that my site comes out funny and swell, that kind of stuff. That's what's different about me. That's what I like to sell. You need to see what do people come away from your site with. And think about it.
Yeah.
Go look at it because you haven't looked in a while. What do you think? What do you feel look at yourself as a different not as yourself, as someone else. What do you think about that person?
It's
What is
also yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and it's also a time to take stock on what are all the strongest people doing where you get a chance. I mean, how many times if you're not sick, are you going to say, "Well, I'm going to take a half hour here, half hour there, half hour, 10 a bunch of times," and both one start listening to something new that you have always wanted to listen to. So you either wanted to listen to Shakespeare, but maybe you wanted to listen to what did Heller do. There's a couple books like from Sean Pratt that I listened to, and I was like, I love the way that I noticed the timing before he does a parenthetical. And I remember as a musician, I'm kind of tuned into timing, and I remember thinking, oh, that's fascinating. And so it was like, so I'm listening to his work and trying to figure out every time he runs into a certain thing, how he does it. I listen to your stuff and go, oh, listen to the way he took that. That was a different character, and the way he brought that in, you get a chance to get a perspective. And if you're sick, It's a perfect time to go check out what the masters are doing, how they're doing it, and get a
Pardon me.
feel for something that'll pay off when you're back in the booth. Because there are times where we all think, oh, I should really be listening to Paul and all the cool things that he's done. And I need to listen to Johnny and the cool thing. And I need to listen to these people. And then we get busy. You don't have a chance to do it. Sick is a perfect time to be doing that
I
stuff.
I will say, though, when you go to the alleged masters, and look at understand sometimes they're not updating their website all the time.
Oh, correct. But yeah, but
I mean, I Lisa Ware, who I dearly love, is my right hand. Um, I employ her to deal with my website, but mostly we update for, workshops and things.
right.
There are things I haven't I mean, I used to do a regular blog, and I just don't 'cause I'm just too busy.
Yeah.
Um, I gotta do stuff. So, it's not always updated, so you might find more you know, this will be here's a thought I just had. You know, you're on Facebook at one of the, audiobook groups, one of the 30,000 that Don owns, and there'll be someone there or someones who are consistently talking about just do this, just do this, just do this, just do and it's almost a constant tsunami of bragging of stuff, all kinds of they simply cannot. And somebody else does a thread, "Oh, I just got an opportunity to audition for so oh, I worked for them, I did this and this. What's the book? I'll try." You know, they jump on your thread, and those people who one wishes to you just like, "Oh, horrible people," but they're really not. They're looking for their attaboys in a job that doesn't give it to them. So understand that, but some of those people, if they're actually really working and not bullshitting the whole time, if they're doing it, take a look at their websites because I bet they're updating the hell out of it all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those, the people who you say, "I hate that guy. I hate that girl." Well, okay, but if they're working and maybe you aren't, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And it's worth looking at just to see. You don't have to change your opinion on anybody or
Yeah.
what they do. But also, I found that, and then, social media is such a horrible animal. And I have found myself saying, I found there are people, I won't tell you there, that I snoo you know, the 30-day snooze,
Yeah.
I use that a lot. I'm so tired of hearing from you. Because it's not there's no info, just a list, it's a resume credits. I don't really care. Um, so I snooze them.
Right.
You can do that, but if you go to their website, you can learn a few things that might be helpful.
Yeah. Well, you also can learn 2 things, but also I am thinking of in my case, I would be talking about listening to the masters, listening to the very experienced people, as opposed to going and checking out what they're doing in other areas, but just listening. It's a great chance if you are not feeling good to put the headphones in or put on your speakerphone, whatever, and go get a chance to see how people are the choices that they're making. I find it fascinating the choices people make under different circumstances. I'm not a great narrator, but boy, from listening for years and editing for years and seeing and hearing what great people do, it's like, oh, I love the way Johnny does that little turn of phrase. I like, how long does he pause before an attribution? How long does he, where is he leaving a just empty space to create a moment, and where doesn't he? Where is he pushing? Where is he relaxed and feeling that what a great artist does within a piece of work and hearing it over and over again is a major win and feeds your sense of what's right and what's good. So that's one of the things when you're sick. If I'm ever sick, I'm sitting and paying attention to other artists. Seriously.
Everybody in New York is sick.
I,
We
it's, yeah, it's that time of year.
well, not only that, and also I will say, like, I'm from Chicago, so I'm snow experienced, but this year has been so unusual. I mean, here we are talking about the weather, but seriously, it's been so weird.
Yeah.
We've had Arctic chills for, like, weeks, and it's just weird, and then the snow that came down in January was still there for, like, weeks and mounds of snow's beautiful, and then it isn't.
Right.
Then you get these
Right.
really black, disgusting mounds, and, people aren't picking up. I have 2 dogs. I pick up after my dogs always. To have the snow melt and reveal
Yeah.
that, people say, "It's snowing, no problem." Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So then the snow that came, this blizzard, 2 feet of snow. It's a
Wow.
lot.
Yeah.
It's clearer now than it was, It's almost all gone. Nothing's it's I mean, there's still it's much easier to walk. It's nice. It's a totally different thing, but this is an unusual weather occurrence, and unusual weather things are happening all over, and I think the human response is to get sick when you normally wouldn't. People who normally don't get colds get them. Just, I get it probably a cold a year maybe. Joanna never does, and she's got it right now. So it's like, I think we're it just I just think, as we continue, and I don't wanna be political, well, I do, but I won't be, but, as we continue to, destroy the world we live on and in, Mother Nature's gonna find ways
Set
to
us
peck
straight.
us off one after one at a time, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
also, to cut you off, I study a bunch of doctors and health related stuff, and some of them are saying, hey, if you never get a cold, that's actually there's a point where that's a negative too, because that part of your system needs to be exercised.
yeah, you don't build the antibodies.
Yeah, so the system that helps us get over stuff needs to be exercised every so often. Otherwise, you're vulnerable to other issues coming in
Well,
later.
that's why I'm happy to hear from the director of, the health association there, Robert Kennedy Jr., snorting coke off toilet seats. That's a great way to build up antibodies from whatever might be on a toilet seat. I think it's a good choice.
That's yeah. W- Well,
As long as I'm not getting political.
it's an interesting time. So what so what do you have? I know you're actively in a move, and so how does that affect? How do you deal with the fact that you have life occurring and trying to interleave it with actually working and moving? And when things get busy, how do you handle that?
I'm not certain because this is our first Joanna and I are moving, literally 4 blocks. We love our neighborhood in New York City, in Upper West Side, so and I'll be honest, let's start a few things. First, I've never owned a place in my life, so it's kind of to be a homeowner, and I never ever thought I would ever even be able to come close to buying a home in New York City. Now, when I say home in New York City, for those of you who live in, Texas where McMansions rule, it's nothing like that, but we've lived for over 20 years, well over 20 years in a, what, 550 square foot place, which in New York City is not necessarily unusual. It's a one bedroom. Now we're going to expansive, like almost 800 feet, which is, it's another one bedroom, but it's bigger, it's nicer, and we own it. So, and just that we're just delighted we were able to do this. But moving, I mean, when I came to New York, I moved any number of times, but it was just me and my clothes. And then I didn't have anything.
Right.
Now I have some stuff. And I found that some of that stuff doesn't work in the new place, so I have to call a thrift organization to come pick up the stuff that's really nice, and I have to pay them to take my wonderful things that I can't have anymore. I have to do moving, and then when you move, because we live in a small space, you start boxing things up, I'll get ready, I'll box things up. Then it occurs to you, there's no space for the boxes, and the dogs are beginning to wonder why their world is shrinking so fast around them. And then when you do all the stuff, dust. I had no idea. I mean, I knew that there was dust. We dusted all the time. Dust
Yeah.
multiplies like rabbits. It's and that can make you sick too. In terms of my work in this booth, it's this space is, doesn't move. It is what it is. But I'll be putting together a new, different booth in my new place. Maybe I might start it today or tomorrow, depending on the contractor. And that's something else. You got to wait in New York City for contractors to finish fixing your place in the time they suggested they might.
Good luck on that. The the
I'm learning a lot. So moving in general blows, and you don't know what to do because you can't wait till the night before to pack it up and go,
right.
but you can't pack it because you're limited in space.
Yeah.
And also you find out, what you need to do is every month or at least every 2 months, just throw things out.
Yeah, good luck on that one.
Yeah,
Basic
if there's stuff you haven't touched in 10 years, it's gotta go.
It all comes down to whatever space you have, you'll end up filling up. If you double, you'll have twice as much stuff in a few years, and if you
It comes down
triple,
to what your wife will let you throw out. So a lot of stuff you gotta throw out when she's not looking, like those baby shoes, pictures. Yeah, those kids are old now, they don't need that.
yeah. Well, so what I hear. So if someone were coming into town next week, there's that thing called the Audis, and then there's the Naughties. Well, what do you recommend that they do to make the most of going to something, whether they're maybe if they're just going to go, and then if they're going and they're up for an award?
Um, First, congrats to everyone who's nominated and going. And also congrats to everybody who's just going because you want to. There's something wonderful about leaving this little space in your t-shirts and, gym shorts and suiting up. Um, just, putting on something nice and going out and showing people how beautiful you look and how beautiful they are and sharing space with other wonderful creative people. There's nothing to replace it. And it's kind of exciting. If you've never been, it's wonderful and it's exciting. In New York City, it's always interesting. I'll say this. I don't I'm not a member of the APA, the Audio Publishers Association, and we can talk about that some other time. Um, or now, I don't care, but I'm not a member. If you're a member, it costs less to go than if you don't. But anyways, you go there. It's generally there's cocktails, little hors d'oeuvres, sometimes there's stuff at the table. Depends how they do it. They are starting. I think they're starting the Audis like, as though it's an LA event. They're starting around 4 or something. LA starts at 4 because the rest of the world isn't. That's like 9. So they're starting here at 4. So it's going to be weird. Um, Generally, it follows the APAC, the Audio Publishers Association convention, which when they started, which so everybody came live, somebody came for learning and growing and a chance to share and learn and meet people, networking. And I used to do that's when I started the Splendiferous workshops. The day before, the day after APAC. Well, now APAC is going to be online. So a lot of people participating won't even be in New York. Those coming to New York are coming specifically to go to the event. And that's wonderful. You dress up. Now, hopefully you'll be invited to parties. Some publishers have parties, some don't. For many years, I'll tell you the history of many years. There's a company used to sponsor a fantastic event. Everybody had parties, but you had to meet by midnight or even later at this great bar hotel, not even named, and you'd go there, and it was completely open, and I think so many people drank so much high quality alcohol that the company was beginning to lose money sponsoring the event, so they ceased to sponsor it, and we stepped into the void and created the Naughties, which is not Audis. We are not sponsored by APA. There's no money, so if you've heard of the Naughties, what it is, it's not something to compete with the Audis. There's nothing competes with the Audis. We're not there. We set it up for people who were coming into town for APAC, but weren't gonna spend another 3, 4, or $500 to go to the Audis, but wanted to still participate and hang out. So this was a before, during, and after get together. And what's fun is you come in, you dress in T-shirts and jeans, whatever you want, or whatever you want to wear. It's casual. But after the Audis are over, they all come in gowns and tuxes. It's kind of neat. It's that huge second wind, and it's so fun. Now, I don't know when the Audis end this year because it used to end around, people come around after parties. They come around 10 or midnight to the Naughties, which had already been going since 7 o'clock anyway. So where we're going to be is a place called Connolly's. We've been there the last 5, 6 years. It's on 45th off 6th Avenue. Easy to get to. So not really Times Square. I forget what they call it. Just to the side of Times Square, just the east side of it, but it's Times Square-y. So we go to Connolly's, 3rd floor, it's where it is, and it's a bar. It's a big room they give us, and it costs you whatever you eat and drink. That's what you spend, and it's free to get in, and it's hanging out, so it's me, my friends, you guys just hanging out, shooting the breeze. I don't have name tags. If you wanna make name tags, feel free, I don't have them. It's networking, but in a pleasant way, and yes, it is a bar. I know people say, "How do we meet in a bar? You gotta eat." Well, it's a bar because that's where you gotta go. It tends to get fairly crowded later. Um, we've been able to find a way to get them because I think the Audis are on, YouTube or something, and we find a way to patch it into our TVs. So you can pay attention to that if you want to. I think the Audis may be over a little early, and I don't know if there's a Penguin Random House parties, Macmillan party. I have no idea. But I'll be sitting there. I'll get there early enough to have a dinner so no one bothers me. And then I'm just gonna hang out with Joanna and whoever there and Phil Thron and my other friends and just shoot the breeze. and I'll try and last as long as I can, to get the latecomers. But sometimes this thing goes like 4 in the morning or has. I've I'm generally home by then. I mean, after a while, I get tired and I go. Um, so, but it's just a fun get together. Are there other things to do? Probably. I don't know of all the events. I rarely get invited to the other events because they know I'm doing this. And this is fun. It's just a get together. That's what that is. Now,
So
here's other stuff you should think about doing in New York, though.
what should they do though to make the most of the time that they spend at the Audis?
Okay, hold on. I'm going to cough. Hang on one second.
I see. He turns off his mic. He's a good
Pardon me.
person.
I took my mic. I still have this fighting this thing. Okay. At the Audis, okay, if you're going to the Audis,
Hmm.
first off, it's not the place to hand out your card, your demos, and you don't seek work, seek relationships. Be at a party, enjoy. Hi, I'm Don Baarns. Nice to meet you. Oh, you're Don Baarns. I've heard a lot about you. Oh, really? What have you heard? Or well, or to have a conversation. There's a chance to get to know these people. They tend I'll be honest with you, a lot of the publishing groups, if they come with like Penguin they tend to stay in their group, and sometimes it's hard to get in there. You might wanna have a wingman or something, but don't worry about it. If you see, Dan Zitt from Penguin, he's a lovely man, giant man. Say, "Oh, you're Dan Zitt." You don't bother, say, I just wanna say hello. I know you're busy with friends. Just lovely to have a chance to meet you." That's fine. That's not no one's gonna be that's fine. Don't impose in the middle of if he's in the middle of something, but you know what I mean? Meet people, say hello to people, enjoy it. Enjoy there's gonna be, like any other award show, there'll be I don't know who's hosting, but sometimes it's funny, sometimes most time, but they have, different, audiobook names that you may recognize, handing out awards to the audiobook people. It's they make a big deal. I think there's a real push on to, incorporate a Hollywoodization of it,
Hmm.
like it or not. So mostly just enjoy. You'll sit at wherever they put you to sit, assuming there's seating. Sometimes they change things. Generally, there's X number of rounds, big tables, like at a wedding, and you're table 3 or 12, whatever. Meet who you meet, see who you see, enjoy. Don't worry about whether people are responding to you. Don't worry about what headway you're making. Just say hello, meet people. The people you know, or grab one so you feel comfortable because, especially a lot of us in this business are not outgoing. And we're introverts. I'm not, but many people are. If you are, that's fine. If you want to meet someone and ask someone to, if I was there, say, Johnny, could you introduce me to Don Baarns? Sure, that kind of thing. Um, but the event itself is to celebrate excellence in audiobook narration. It's a publisher's event. The publisher generally keeps the award. The actors have to go buy an extra one, but it's a celebration of the acting, of the award, of everything, and it's a big deal, certainly to the publishers and certainly those nominated. Um, in nominating and not winning, being nominated is great. Winning is great. Not being nominated, not winning, it also means you're great. You're in the business. That's great. There are so many deserving efforts from actors that will never get nominated. Just don't. It doesn't mean that your work is not award winning to someone. Um, please don't feel that you're not in it because you're not in it. You're there. You're part of this industry. So this is remember that you're part of it. None of this would happen were it not for your efforts, and I mean specifically your efforts. And take some pride in that and enjoy yourself. That's the event there, and I'll take some questions. There probably are some things, but also let's talk about some things to do in New York in the time you have to be if you've never been there. Does Chris have something I'd like
Yeah,
to?
Chris has a good question here. So, what would be your pitch to an author whose book is not in the audio marketplace? So basically, you have an author that wrote something and they don't have an audiobook. What would be a good value proposition to convince the author it is a worthwhile revenue stream?
Okay. All right, so we'll come back to New York and stuff in a second.
Hmm.
Here's the thing. Um, if the book is not in the audio marketplace, most authors are aware these days of the audio marketplace. So it's not that there was a time early on in this industry where what's an audiobook was not unusual. That would be rare today. So if you can talk to an author, say, "Hey, yeah, I'm Chris Walsh, and I'm an audiobook narrator, and your book's fantastic. I see there's no audiobook. I would love to do the audiobook for you. Do you have any interest in that? We can talk about it." Yes, they'll be interested. Now, he may say, "I've got a deal with Scott Brick," whatever, but if there's no deal struck, if he's independent, truly independent, so it's self-produced, then he or she makes the decision. If he or she has an agent, the agent may be involved in the decision. If he or she has a publisher, you don't know what contract they have with the publisher for audiobook rights. So one of the very first questions, Chris, is who has the audio rights? Because you can say, "I'd love to do the audio. Do you know who has the audiobook rights?" And they'll say, "Well, I do." Or, Don Baarns talent does, or whatever. So then the question is, if it's them, you're talking to them, you go with them. If it's Don, say, "Can you get me an introduction? I'd love to talk to them because this is a great book." Never lose sight of the idea. This is a great book. Every single artist wants their art to be seen and acknowledged.
Right.
That's not just artists don't create art just because they must, but it's the response as well. It's to share. If I'm make some beautiful art, but no one's ever seen it, does it exist? It's
Right.
philosophical, but you know what I mean? So if that book wants to go out, and it does, and he wants it out there, they may say, "Well, there's a lot of characters that I'm not aware, Chris, of your work." So there's also, "Well, listen, I'd love it. I'll tell you what, here's my website, this kind of all this depends how the direction the conversation goes. Here's my website or some work, or if you'd like, I could narrate a section for you. You can hear how I do it and get a feel." In addition to the talent quotient, there's the business quotient. What do you do, Chris? Will you produce it through ACX? Will you be the producer and handle all that? Will you, pardon me, will you, push it to, can you get it to be seen by Macmillan? Can you get it to be seen? Like, I have friends. Oh, there's so many houses that, John Marshall Media, there's Deb Dean Audio, there's a PJ Oakland, there's Christine Pham was a guest with us recently. And there's all these actors have their own production companies who are happy to sometimes work with you. So you don't really have to have all the answers, but you have to have a place where the answers live that are easy to get. So let's say I'm talking to Don Baarns about his great book, Don Baarns, Why I'm Cool by D. Baarns. Great book. So I say, I want to do the audio. And I say, listen, I've got a publisher friend, Deb Dean's a great, I like her. Pardon me. Let me put it through to her. She'll give it. Well, she has people. Here's their framework. And then Deb, if you don't know this, because if you're going to produce it, you'll say, here's the options on royalty share versus percentage, or what do they call the combination? I forget.
Royalty share plus.
Royalty share plus, or whatever it's going to be. Or you say, Deb will produce it. Here's the engineer. They'll put so I did my own, when I did Harpo Speaks, I did it through Blackstone. I could have produced it through ACX, but Blackstone did it, and that's because I picked that. There are many options. The first thing to do is study some of the options. You can answer some of the questions. The questions you don't have an answer to, and they'll be there. You have to say, you know what? That's a great question. Let me make a note of that, and I'll get the answer to you. That's always satisfactory. Saying, I don't know, man, great question. I have no idea. That's not satisfactory. Know who to talk to. For me, because of my, I'm very aggressive and hardworking as an actor, but very lazy and not interested in anything tech or businessy. Don't like it. I don't like, I signed the contracts and I'd rather shake a hand. I just, it's just, I'm completely too old school for this anymore. But if Don gives me a contract, I say, Don, here's a contract that I've got. And then we'll put it through. And I said, things will happen, but know who to talk to. You know what we can do? I can get some help. Don Baarns has this thing, this pre-read thing, and that'll get me all ready, and I'll know what I'm doing. And just all this. There are things that they don't. There are things they know that they don't even know they know, but they're going to have questions. But the big picture, you love their book and want to get it out in audio. You want to be paid for your efforts. You may say, can I buy the audiobook rights? Then you don't need them anymore at all. They may be willing to sell it. Could be 500, could be 5,000. Don't know. Depends on the book. Understand, if it's a good book that you found, Macmillan and Penguin Random House and Simon & Schuster, they may be bidding on the book as well. You just don't know. They may say, "Well, I'm saying it's in negotiation right now." However, you coming up to the author and saying what you said means you may be in the running to narrate it anyway, because the author has a lot of say these days in casting. So there's almost no, unless you cock it up by just being an idiot, you can't mess it up just by reaching out and saying, "I love your writing. I love this book. Who's doing the audio? I'd love to do the audio." That right away puts you to the front of the line because you reached out and did it. And so I guess that's a roundabout way of saying you've got to do some research. Um, and if you don't, you've got to have someone in mind right now when you talk to them that you can send the whole project to, happy to do it. And most of these publishers will be happy to do it.
Right.
Is that answer?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Lisa's done a whole bunch of those
Yeah.
where she reached out to an author and so then sometimes we've had a discussion with them and just make sure they know what it's going to take and are we going to put it through ACX or
Well,
through a
conversation
publisher?
with Lisa, and, and Lisa's always there with the great questions too. Conversation with Lisa on live on air about that process would be most helpful.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
thing is
I know you guys don't
it's
get along, but I'm just saying,
no.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's yeah. She doesn't like
yeah.
me, is what we're saying.
No, well,
Anyway,
darn. Yeah.
so
But
the
I
thing
thought you were
about it
getting over split. It's
that you always end up doing is you do need to figure out in advance what kind of terms you'll work under. So are you willing to do 100% royalty share, which I don't recommend. If you're going to them, you want them to have some skin in the game, unless you thought this was going to be a seller that was going to. If it's going to sell a lot of copies, then a publisher would be interested, and they have a lot of options. But a lot of times they don't even know what the options are. So you have to be prepared to answer a few basic questions and do your homework about if I was given a book, if my mother, just think of if your sibling wrote a book and they came to you and said, I want to get this published in audio, what would I have to do? And you need to go do the research in advance to have basic answers to the path you would take if you were doing your brother's book and then extend it out to, well, I don't want to do my brother's. How are we going to do this commercially? And what responsibilities. So we're always doing, in a worst case, we're doing the thing where they pay a certain amount per hour and then we get a royalty share. Lisa's got some deals. She has an author that pays her full, what, per finished hour and royalties.
Yeah.
Because she has a relationship. She did a couple books for them early on where it was royalty plus, and then they were happy enough with her that now they do them all through her at full as if she was doing just a per finished hour, and then the royalty comes in on it as well. But that's
And you need to have
building
you need
relationships.
you need to have some faith in your rate, in your per finished hour rate.
Hmm.
If your per finished hour rate, let's say, is 250, but now you're also, let's say you're producing it too, you need the money on top. So another 100, let's say it's 350.
Right.
Okay. So and I'll say 350. I'm not going to give you 350 an hour to do my book. I'll do it myself. Well, then that's spoken like someone who doesn't know what that doing it myself entails.
Right.
So you need to understand why you're worth what you say you're worth. And I see this more often in audiobook narrators than anything else. There's no embarrassment for saying this is how much I get
Yeah.
or how much I want.
Right.
It's not like, well, I normally ask for 400, but if that's too much. No, 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 no. Look, you're a pro. You're a pro. You ask what you need to make this financially work for you.
Right.
Given that we may say, let's say it's Don's, 10 series. It's a 10 book series. Well, maybe you can come down a little bit because 10 books may pay you enough
Right.
to justify a little lower rate. And there's nothing wrong with a, a series rate reduction. It's okay. But just be aware that the numbers you say, you need to be convinced those are fair numbers. Those
Yeah.
are the right numbers for you.
And
And
if
and
you
and no embarrassment.
Yeah, and if so, for Chris's question about one of the things I would be doing though before I do any of that is if their book isn't in the market, are they writing multiple books? If they haven't written multiple books, or then I would be I don't know. I'd be less likely to spend the time and effort to go after an author that's written one and doesn't seem like they're building an audience and isn't already out there doing things. The perfect one is to find someone that's not in audio that has a back series that they're not promoting anymore and they're working on a current series because that's an author who has made a decision that they're going to improve their craft.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
building an audience, and that's really, really you. Since we're all getting better and better, we want an author that's doing the same thing in parallel.
Mm. But then you have, To Kill a Mockingbird, which stood on its own for years and years and years. So if it's Catcher in the Rye or
Okay.
do that book, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that Paul Hayes, the last guy? I can't read that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
He's got a great comment there. No one will pay you what you're worth until you tell them what you're worth, which is so right on.
a lot of you don't. I know some of you don't know Paul Hayes. I think he's a fantastic narrator. Um, and he's not even a bad person, as a matter of fact. But he says these pithy truths, and they are true. No one will pay you what you're worth until you tell them what you're worth. And that's dead on correct. And you have to have, see, there's some else. There's Paul, brilliant, because there's something in the actor DNA that says, "Oh, thank God you cast me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it." As opposed to saying, "Made a good call casting me. I'm carrying this damn show." You know
Right.
what I mean?
And you want to
So
say that out loud, don't you?
yeah, but it's there, but the idea that you're being cast, that you're the person who should do the book, has gotta be really formed. You're worth the money you ask,
Right.
and I think for a lot of you, you're worth more than the money you ask.
Yeah, it's true.
Um, but there are times, Scott Brick, Sean is Pratt has a whole thing on the power of no, well, we've talked about it a lot, and if you say no, if your rate is my rate is $300, I'm not doing anything less for a finish on. That's it. That's what it is. Well, then someone says, "Here's a book. We want you to do it. It's let's say it's the history of the Marx Brothers. That's my book. Okay, I want that because it's not going to be the sale I want. So the budget we can't make 300. Will you do it for 275? Well, then I think that's a fair ask. Now we're negotiating. And you have to say, "I'm worth 300." They said that we know it's not a question of your worth, it's a question of the budget for the book. So you have to decide if doing this project means enough to me in my heart as an actor that I'm willing to take less, or if I say yes to this number, can we agree to do our next couple books at my number or greater? That's all negotiating. And I do that kind of negotiation all the time. I just did it 2 days ago. I was offered a book that I really wanted. I didn't know about the existence of it. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, so I won't, but it's a subject near and dear. It's sports. It's something that's important and great and wonderful, and I'm excited about it. The budget doesn't have a Johnny Heller number in it. Okay. And they knew that.
Mhm.
We can't, and so they're upfront. And I said, "Well, hey, look, this is, so, and sometimes I even make joke and I'll use my personality. Say, look, I usually work for X number of dollars. I will do this for you if you promise me some books down the road at my number. And also, you can't tell anybody I'm doing it for this number."
Mm.
And I said, "And I have to tell you," parenthetically, I put this, "I'm doing this no matter what you pay me because I really want to do it." And I know it's not a strong tactic, but there we have it. So there's laughter there, and I know I'm going to do it, and they know I'm going to do it. So all the rest is just you're working out
Posturing.
fine details. But it's a guy, because I decided when they offered it, I was going to do it, almost no matter what the number was, because I wanted it. Sometimes that happens. So your worth, your value isn't always monetary. Sometimes having this feather in your cap, this book on your resume, because after we get a lot of books. Paul Hayes, I've listened to. He's done some wonderful stuff, but I know there's books he's done that he didn't like, and I know there's books I've done I didn't like. Here's a book I'm really gonna like. I'm gonna enjoy it, and I find as I move further on in my career, I'm not only being offered more, but I'm being given the opportunity more to do books I want to do, that I would like to do.
Right.
And that's something else all of you have to understand. It doesn't matter where you are in your career, you don't have to say yes to every opportunity. Every opportunity is not necessarily an opportunity. If you don't like the material, then, how good is it gonna be? And people are gonna you will be judged by the efforts you made in a book that sucks because you didn't like the book. Now, I may do a book that's I love and I was great, but Chris Walsh or Paul Hayes may have hated it and not done a good job because it's just not their cup of tea. Sometimes getting your cup of tea is worth some money.
So here's the conversation. So it's a 10-hour book. You have a specific rate. The author has to look at the return on investment for a certain amount of money. What's a credible response here? And then we'll look at Paul's.
Um, I'll be honest, that's very exact, and I don't know the answer. Everything depends on the genre of the book, what kind of money books like that bring in. I don't know. That's why every book has its own budget. Um, on the other hand, a $2,500 investment
Right.
to get your art out there. What if, if I was an artist and had to rent a
Yeah.
gallery, I'm looking at $25,000 investment. You know what I mean?
Right.
It kind of
Right.
depends. I think if you look at a $2,500 investment and say, gosh, that's too much, maybe that's an author you don't want to work with.
Right. And Paul has it right here where he says you don't need a credible response. You're looking at what the author, for some authors, 2,500 bucks is they're thinking, I got to sell 600 books, 800 books, whatever. There's some
Yeah.
overhead in there. And they already know what they're selling now, or what
Yeah.
their other books. If you're working with an author that's been around, then they have an idea of what that book is going to bring in. And
Yeah.
hopefully your numbers are going to come in at something where they
Yeah.
look at it and say, that's a good investment. Okay, that's worth doing. And if
Yeah. And
not,
that's
then
what
go ahead.
Chris, you're not constantly selling the guy on doing his book. He wants that. Everybody wants their book done.
Right.
There's nobody who doesn't.
That's why
If
royalty
if
share
if
exists.
if they have no money, well, then maybe they're not a guy you wanna work with, or it's gotta be royalty share. You make those decisions. But if I can invest $2,500 in the Johnny Heller story, read by Don Baarns, then don't do the book.
Right.
Don't forget, this is a business relationship. You're gonna deal with this person. Don Baarns is a good friend of mine. We've been doing this show for free for 2 years or more. We wouldn't do it at all if we didn't like each other.
Right.
We couldn't.
Because we don't make money doing it. So,
Yeah, which, by the way, which is a plea, send us some money, you tightwads, you, or at least a sandwich. I could go for a hoagie about now.
so, I mean,
Which might
Paul,
is a hoagie a specific kind of sandwich?
sure.
Is it?
I'm an expert. I have no clue.
I don't know, because I mean, on the Subways and hoagies, is it what's in the sandwich or the size of the sandwich? And the
Yes.
kind is I don't know.
I'm just saying yes.
I know you are.
Because I don't have it.
That's a little food for
You're
thought, see? Food for
you're
thought.
way over my pay grade there. But Paul basically has it right. So he's saying you can give him the facts. The real question is, for the author, are they willing to put some skin in the game? And so at $1,000, if it's worth it to them, it might not be worth your time. So you have to have a number that works for you and works for them. And if they're not sold on their book being worth a couple $1,000s, then chances are it's not going to be a good fit for you either. So you need to have it enough that they have a little bit of, that's a stretch. If you can pull that off, that's where I want to be. And if you know what you're worth, then cool. And if they're not willing to invest something in it, usually it's not worth it. Now you can hit a home run with a royalty share sometime that's total because it's a great book. And then only if you decide it's worth it at the lower rate to begin with, then that can be fine too. But like you said, you're doing one cheaper than you would normally do it, but it's something that you want to do, that you enjoy, and it's not such a low rate that you feel like, hey, I should
Oh,
go to
no, I wouldn't know. If it was too low, I'd say, "Screw it, I'd just read the book."
right.
I'd just sit home and read it with a coffee. But, I wanna go back to one thing for you because 'cause we're running out of time. If you're coming to New York, a couple quick things.
Uh-huh.
First, there's the subway, you don't get a understand the subway system. Take a look, get a subway map, it tells you everywhere you wanna go. Subways in New York are really great. They really are. I suggest, and you make some time, you've gotta go down to Manhattan's an island. A lot of people don't know that. It's an island. So go to the bottom of the island. That was settled first by the Dutch. So you can tell because all the streets are sideways and weird. Above the bottom of the island, they're all numbered on a grid, so it makes sense, so people know where they are. Down there, where the 9/11 memorial and all that other stuff, and it's really cool. Rector Street, the Fulton Street, seaport there,
Hmm.
you can walk from one side of the island to the other in like 15 minutes down there because it's thin. Great restaurants, great stuff. But go down at the end of the number 1 train, the red one, Nobody here uses colors. It's all numbers, even though they're color coded. I still call them colors because they're color anyway. So it's the number one train. It's the local red line. Go to the end of it, and then walk over to the Staten Island ferry terminal. That's free. You get on the ferry, and you go right to Staten Island, and you don't want to get off the ferry and cross over and get right back on because Staten Island is so. But on the ferry itself, you go right past the Statue of Liberty, great views of Governor's Island, great views of Manhattan, and you didn't spend anything. And you could buy beer on the thing. So you can, I mean, it's just fun. It's like a half-hour water trip. Well, an hour because you gotta come back. But it's free and it's wonderful. I'm just suggesting it. Also, if you wanna take in a Broadway show or off-Broadway show, the TKTS booth has a day of tickets. Shows that are hot and happening, you can get tickets for the day of and see it right away. Some great seats. The TDF, that's the Theater Development Fund organization. I forgot what it costs to join, but they have discount tickets. There's all kinds of ways. So see a show and restaurants. New York is a foodie town, and a lot of neighborhoods have different foods. Almost every place is fairly safe now. It truly is. I mean, anybody can get mugged anywhere at any time, but this is not the 1970s New York.
Right.
And but there's great, I mean, the best Italian food, the best everything. When you find a great restaurant, love it, enjoy it. Don't go back to it the next night. My brother did that. He went to the same place 3 nights in a row. I'm like, "This is ridiculous." Don't do that. But anyway, so there. And also, shoot me a note if you want. I'll help you. But if you can, visit us at the Naughties at Connolly's on 45th off 6th.
What night is that?
That's Monday night, the
Monday
night of
night?
the Audies.
Okay.
And next week, just so you know, we're doing our show. I hope to be able to do the show. I might not be able to because I'm a member of the Golden Voices. It's a small select group of alleged Golden Voices, where there's 3 new people being brought into the Golden Voices. We're going to be at Barnes and Noble on that Tuesday from like noon till 1. The Barnes and Noble of the Upper West Side, like 83rd or 84th and Broadway. If you're in town, you can come there. It's neat. There'll be authors and actors and people that you know of. Simon Vance will be there. Scott Brick will be there. I'll be there. So it's quite nice. Anyway, so there's a million things to do, but do something. Don't New York. People say, "Where's the best hotel in New York?" I don't know because I live here, so I don't stay in hotels here. I have no idea. But pay what you can for the best you can get, and most of your fun is gonna be out of it anyway.
Right.
Right? Okay.
Hmm.
Any other questions to go?
No, I think that's it for now. So Johnny's probably gonna we're working on him being able to do remote next week, and if we can work that out, we'll make it happen. If not, we'll have another guest here. We'll have a good time, and we will have Steve back. I mean, he apologized, and he's already done it before, so he knew what he was into. So he didn't just bail at the last minute because of something that we said. Anyway, so send him
Oh,
a get well soon card, and what are we gonna say about?
I just saw Chris wants me to reschedule the Philly event. I'll talk to Paul Rubin about that. The problem was the hotels are astronomically high for the event. We're gonna lose money on it. So let me look into I may send you an email. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys. And thank Don. You know, Don Baarns is the hero of this show. He runs it. He's the tech guy. If you haven't tried his pre-read program, you must. I have. He's not just a friend. Don Baarns is plain and simple, brilliant, and he's got a great heart. And I just think I want to go on record as saying that. So there, I have.
Well, I appreciate it, and it goes both ways. We always have a great time, and we appreciate you. So be sure to subscribe, be sure to like this, be sure to make comments later. We'll be back next week, and as always, we look forward to seeing you on the wires. Have a great week.
Bye.
We'll see you later.